button. Welcome to the underbelly of Ravnica. We're here with Izoni, getting that nice swarm of bugs ready for our opponents. Bet they can't wait to encounter those. So let's start off with the queen herself, and that's going to be Izoni, Thousand-Eyed. Undergrowth, whenever Izoni enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and black insect creature token for each creature card in your graveyard. Then for a 2-mana activation, sacrifice another creature, you gain 1 life, and you draw a card. Now, this is a really fun commander. I will say this. The key to making a good Izoni deck is having a good foundation for the deck. Her ability, her Undergrowth ability it's not bad, but it's not going to win you games. You need to have kind of the perfect storm setup of different cards that really amplify that ability, but she's still a good commander and a lot of fun to play. It's just you need to make sure you have a very good core foundation of the deck if you're thinking about building Izoni. You just kind of get into this weird competing clause to where you want to get creatures on the battlefield, but at the same time you have creature cards in the graveyard. It's almost like if she had just, and I know it doesn't fit with Golgari, but if she had like a blue activated ability, that would almost be perfect. But it's Golgari, it is what it is. At least just wanted to highlight that you want to make sure that the core of your deck is really good to make sure that you can really bring out her strengths and make sure that she's not just some sort of kind of weakness. You almost kind of want to approach her as like kind of like a support commander. That once you get your graveyard rolling, once you kind of get a good board state developed, then you can cast Izoni to get her down, and you're not trying to rush her out as quickly as possible, because if you're trying to do that, it's going to make for kind of a clunky board state. But let's start off with some of the stuff that makes Izoni really good, and that's swarming your opponent with some beautiful, beautiful insects. So that's going to be stuff like Panharmonicon and Conjurer's Closet, Parallel Lives. We want to be able to amplify the amount of tokens that we get on the battlefield. Panharmonicon is going to get that double enter the battlefield trigger. Conjurer's Closet is going to make sure that we keep getting that trigger going turn after turn. And of course, Parallel Lives works out wonderful in that we can double the amount of tokens that we're getting. So, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. Let's say that we have these all three on the battlefield. Get down Izoni, she will become a very, very powerful commander. But if you don't have some sort of combination of these, it's a little hard to get her going. So definitely want to run these in there. And then also stuff that kind of hits off of these cards, stuff like Ishkana and Worm Harvest. These are going to get some really nice amplifying effects off both of these cards. Now, one of the ways that you can really take advantage of stuff like Panharmonicon and Conjurer's Closet is having the Keepers of the Swarm. That's going to be creatures with nice enter the battlefield triggers. Stuff like Reclamation Sage, Eternal Witness, Crater Hoof. These are all creatures that enter the battlefield and do something. Once they enter the battlefield, we can actually sacrifice them because we've gotten their use of them entering the battlefield. So kind of they pull a little bit of a double duty in that we can use Reclamation Sage to destroy an artifact or enchantment, then we can sacrifice it, go into the graveyard, and turn it back into an insect token, creating the Circle of Life, making Izoni very happy. And of course, Crater Hoof, getting double Crater Hoof triggers is always good off of something like Panharmonicon. Like I mentioned, stuff like Plaguecrafter, Shriek Maw, you just basically want to get these creatures on the battlefield, get them into the graveyard, and cash them in for some sort of insect tokens. Now, one way that you definitely want to build your deck is building some really nice dredge option. You want to be able to kind of get that graveyard going, kind of keep it flowing, and that's some really good dredge cards. Stuff like Golgari Thug and Doom Whisperer, that's going to allow you to either dredge your library with Golgari Thug and put a creature on top, or you can actually use Doom Whisperer as a way to kind of pay 2 life and kind of start digging through your library to get some of those cards into the graveyard. And of course, we're in green-black, it's a little hard to have access to some really good self-milling, so stuff like Deadbridge Chance, really good. Enters the battlefield, put the top 10 cards of your library, which is just, I love it. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to choose a creature at random and return it back to your hand. We are looking at a 6 converted mana cost commander, so stuff like Life from the Loam and Entomb. We can use Entomb to put Life from the Loam into the graveyard, kind of start dredging that out and making sure that we keep hitting our land drops. So you always want to basically just kind of keep that graveyard flowing with some sort of dredge option to get those creatures going. Now for the muscle of the deck, the creatures that are going to put some work against our opponent, stuff like Underrealm Lich, the Gitrog Monster, and Grim Flayer, they all care about the graveyard in some form or fashion. So with the Underrealm Lich, it's kind of like a Brainstorm Dredge, which is really cool if you think about it. If you would draw a card, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So if you're going to be drawing some cards, you can dump stuff in there. Gitrog Monster is going to be sacrificing lands and drawing you some cards. You can use Life from the Loam to bring those lands back. And then of course something like Grim Flayer, that's going to allow us to kind of filter the top part of our library, and once we get Delirium active, it's going to be a nice 4/4 body for us to start swinging it across. And of course, stuff like Deathrite Shaman and Nyx Weaver, that's going to allow us to put cards into the graveyard with Nyx Weaver, and then we can use Deathrite Shaman as a way to kind of exile some of the stuff out of the graveyard. Now, one thing that works really well with Izoni, that's going to be Aristocrats, believe it or not. And that's going to be stuff like Blood Arts and Zulaport, Cutthroat, and a Sack Outlet. So get these creatures down, start sacrificing your creatures. Those creatures go to the graveyard, have Izoni enter the battlefield. You can get the insect tokens, start sacrificing them again. You can really put in some damage with stuff like Blood Arts and Zulaport on the battlefield at the same time. And depending if you have something like Living Death in your hand, you can, let's say that you sacrifice your board, you put 10 creatures into the graveyard, you cast Izoni, you sacrifice Izoni, cast Living Death. With that trigger on the Undergrowth trigger on the stack, you should be able to sacrifice the entire board in response to that trigger and get a few more insect tokens to kind of finish it out with some Aristocrats win. So, and of course, stuff like Mazarek, that's going to allow, whenever we sacrifice a creature, that's going to allow us to kind of get that +1 counter going on some of our insect tokens. And that is going to be it for the deck tech. I have 3 gameplay videos up for you right now, so I hope you enjoyed dredging through the swamps of Ravnica, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.